Well, you're asking me that at a very interesting moment. So we are in an economic crisis that has gone back to the levels of 1930. It's only superseded, I guess, by the levels of 1930. So it's a colossal moment in our time. Art depends on fat. So before you have necessities, the necessities of life, which are hospitals and houses and schools, you're not going to have art. Art comes afterwards. Art enriches society, and of course it helps to make it. But when there's a moment like this of austerity, I think that art that has some kind of moral backbone or rigor in it is going to become more interesting to people, because we're in a time of deep reflection and we have to think about our own folly and what we did going into Iraq to support Bush and all his friends at Halley Burton, and now how we're going to get out of that, all the misery that we've caused in the world and all the misery now we are causing to ourselves. So I think that this is going to result in an art that is perhaps less to do with fun and less to do with frivolity. Yeah, it's a very pressing question, because you're asking me a question that it's a blanket question and it's not particularized. So to give a non-specific answer to a non-specific question, or a question where you haven't itemized examples, I would have to say, yes, it has to be included, because you can't kick art out of the cultural carpet. It's part of it. But I understand, that when people are dying in the streets, when they don't have enough to eat, this precedes art. There's no question about it. I would say that if you look back at the history of art, the most interesting art is made in times of great wealth. So I would say it's absolutely not true. A Renaissance came out of enormous wealth and power, and so did the School of Venice. So did abstract expressionism. So did impressionism, and on and on and on. So it's true that some interesting art will be made, and I've endured a couple of recessions myself, and I've noticed that in a sober time, you make art that's perhaps less extroverted, that relies less on support from the culture. There are less people around to give copious amounts of money to put things into museums. Less museums are going to be built, so on and so on. Less artists are going to go to art school, etc. But if you look at the history of art, that's absolutely not true, except if you want to talk about the beginning of the 20th century and the invention of Dada. Well, I would say that depends how preoccupied a person is, how embattled a person is. If a person is really seriously embattled, if somebody's lost their job, I don't know how much mental freedom, emotional freedom, and flexibility you have to go strolling around in museums. I think you might be too anxious. So the answer to that question is I don't know, but if somebody is feeling very embattled, other things become more important, of course. And I once read a comment on Japan. We're talking about Japan in the 50s following the Second World War, and also between the wars. And this writer, Japanese writer, said that the quality, the great spiritual inner strength of Japan depends on its poverty. And that's a very interesting remark. So to say that poverty is better, of course, is a difficult thing to support. But copious amounts of money that are just frivolously wasted away, that destroy the environment at the same time, is also killing us. Because if we base our life and our future and our possibilities on economic growth, it's the same as saying we base our future on eating the planet, which of course is an irreconcilable. Something we'll have to give at some point, and we as human beings are going to have to start to address that, and as we are now.